Welcome and welcome back to our channel, The Sensory Corner, your place for education, parent information, and sensory DIYs. Last week we started a new series on parenting emotionally complex children. As mentioned in the first episode, this will include tips on parenting children with ODD, ADHD, sensory processing disorder, autism, anxiety, and many more. If you would like to see our first episode, go ahead and click our link up above and you can find information on early warning signs of sensory processing disorder. Today's episode, episode 2, is going to focus on one of the biggest traits that you need to have as a parent of a child that is emotionally complex. Today's episode, episode 2, is going to focus on one of the biggest traits that you need to have as a parent of a child that is emotionally complex, and that is patience. Of course, every parent should have patience with their children, but we also know that having patience 100% of the time as a parent, is nearly impossible. I'm the first to admit that I'm not always patient. I do get frustrated. It's okay though. We're all human. It is easy to get frustrated and to lose patience when your child is having a rough time. It's easy to become upset if you had to say the same thing 5 or 6 times or even more in a row and nothing is being done. It's easy to lose patience when you're in the middle of meltdown number 3 or 4 for the day. We all do it, and I'm the first to admit it. But I have noticed that my son responds to my reaction and when he's having a rough time. If I'm calm and patient, then he calms down much more quickly, and then we can move on. But when I'm not showing as much patience as needed, the meltdown becomes worse, and we both end up in tears at the end. And it's something I'm definitely working hard to maintain in 2021. So why is being patient with your child so important? First of all, put yourself in your child's shoes. It's important to understand what he or she is going through to the best of your abilities. Someone who is neurotypical or average, like me, would go to a store. We can do well. We feel comfortable, we're not overwhelmed. I take in all the sensory stimuli at a low level, and I can filter out what I need and what I don't need or to understand what's going on in the situation. This allows me to think clearly, go through the store, get what I need, think about if I missed anything, and to check out without having a sense of being overwhelmed and the need to leave. When a child with sensory challenges goes into a store, they immediately feel overwhelmed by the lights, the sounds, everybody moving around, the environment. Everything that is going on around the child will be taken in, and the brain cannot determine what is important and what is not, so everything's coming in and they don't know what they really need to pay attention to. As a result, the brain gets overstimulated very quickly because the amount of information coming in is so much and it's all at once. As a result, the child cannot think clearly and they just want to get away from the situation and make it stop. The brain sees this overstimulation as a threat and makes the body feel that they need to protect itself. The body activates the fight or the flight mode. Basically, the brain tells the body what it needs to do in order to be protected from the threat. Are they going to run away from it? Or if they stay, could they protect themselves from it? So that would be the fight mode. This is when any physical contact, hitting, biting, scratching, kicking, that would be a part of the fight response. Now think about how incredibly hard this is for your child. So take that into account before approaching your child during a meltdown or when they're overstimulated prior to a meltdown, and know that they are struggling. And this is exactly what is happening. They are not giving you a hard time. They are having a hard time. Knowing that you will need that extra patience with your child, especially when you go out to any new situations or any environments that are full of stimuli, like a store. Even though you do your best to prevent them from struggling, and we cannot stop everything from happening as parents, unfortunately, they're going to act out as a response to being overwhelmed. And that is different based on every child. They would end up fighting or flight. Now, personally, I know that this is very stressful, especially when it's in a public place like a store. When we would go into stores and I knew that it was inevitable, that my stress level would go up, my anxiety would go up. Oh my gosh, when is it gonna happen? Am I gonna get through the store? What can I do to prevent it? It was just so much stuff going in my mind. And then that would lower my patience because I was so focused on everything else that might happen. And as a result of that, the meltdown would get worse, and we would end up having to leave with him either kicking and screaming or we would have an increased situation. Once I realized that my child is indeed struggling, I decided that helping him during that time was much more important than how others saw me. I needed to focus on my child at that time, and that is it. When this happened, I noticed that the meltdowns did not last as long and we would be able to move on. Instead of disciplining this response as a bad behavior, because a lot of us as parents, we see this just like the onlookers and we assume it's bad behavior if we don't know exactly what's going on. Once we understand what's going on, we know that it really is not a bad behavior. It's a response to the stimulation and the environment that your child is in. We have to take a deep breath. We have to have that patience with our child without the yelling, without the stern discipline voice that all parents have. And there should not be consequences when your child has a meltdown. They need to be given a hug, removed from the situation, know that they have a patient and calm adult to help them through the situation, that they understand what they're going through, and that they're going to be there until it's done. Now, obviously, if something happened that is not safe, needs to be stopped right away. And if that needed to be addressed later on, then that could be addressed once your child is in a sound state of mind. Now, when they are in the middle of a meltdown, the stimuli and everything is in their brain. That's the only thing that they're thinking of. They're not able to think of, okay, mom's talking to me, dad's talking to me, I did this, I need to listen to what they're saying and make sense of it. That's not going to happen when they're in the middle of a meltdown because their brain cannot take that in and process it because it's overwhelmed by the stimuli. So once they are calm, you know that they're in a state of mind, that they're able to listen, then that's when you can address anything that you needed to address as a parent. I'm going to be doing a video later on in the year when it has to do with discipline strategies and things like that with a child with autism or sensory processing disorder that would be more effective, that also takes into account their sensory responses to their environment. Now, I find if I treat this as a bad behavior, then I talk to him in a stern voice and I raise my voice, then that makes the situation worse. It adds to the stimuli that is going on in his brain, and then he starts to respond even more. Also, if he can tell that I'm angry or mad at him or upset with him, it puts more stress on him, which in turn puts that on his already overwhelmed brain. Okay, so this could result in an even more intense response, and then it could result in a full-blown meltdown, which is something that we want to avoid at all costs. So this is why patience is really, really important to have as a parent of an emotionally complex child. It is something that is very difficult to achieve, but it is something that we should all learn to work on. So our next episode, which will be next week, is episode 3, and that is something that is huge with my family, and it has been able to help us go through traveling and to theme parks and just regular day-by-day school days and things like that. It is preparation. Now, preparation is huge, and I'm going to have an extensive video on how to prepare for different things next week. So thanks for joining. Check out our channel for more videos just like this. Some are on your screen right now. Also, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you can get notifications of new videos when they come out.